All right, we are live from another 49ers training camp that just completed. The dog days of camp are upon us. We had some good stuff out there today, though. But I think one of the biggest things of today was some of the players that got released, some of the players that were added, and, of course, some of the bigger standouts today, which included Upton Stout, Ricky Pearsall battling at it, George Kittle continuing to be that guy for the San Francisco 49ers. We got a lot of good stuff and guys who are continuing to separate in these training camp battles. We're going to get into it all right now, but you guys already know what to do. Drop an SDS in the chat, smash that like button, and let's talk all things San Francisco 49ers training camp right now.
Smash that like button if you haven't already. Love to see it.
What's up, guys? All right, so today got off to a hot start when we had found out that Greg Joseph was released, and that leaves only one kicker left, and that is Jake Moody. This was definitely the most publicized camp battle heading into this year. Everyone knew it was a battle. Everyone knew that these guys were competing, and sure enough, it does appear Jake Moody, as for now, has won the kickoff battle, or kickoff field goal kicker battle, whatever you want to call it, as he remains. So we'll see if the 49ers bring in any additional kickers, if they bring back Greg Joseph. But as it stands right now, Jake Moody is your kicker one. The 49ers also made a bunch of other roster moves again this morning, letting go a bunch of guys. I think some of the guys that were a bit surprising to see let go were Isaiah Nayor, the wide receiver, undrafted free agent out of Nebraska, who had arguably one of the coolest catches of training camp so far. However, he was a UDFA. He wasn't used all that heavily, but, there are a lot of, things popping up in regards to injuries everywhere, and was kind of surprised to see him let go. Tanner Mordecai was also let go, and in favor for quarterback Carter Bradley, who actually had a pretty solid day today. So he has some potential for sure. And I'll be honest, Tanner Mordecai did not look great all of training camp. He typically had an interception a day, so he didn't look confident, didn't look super, ready. He looked like a practice squad quarterback at best. So we'll see what's going to happen, especially with guys like Andy Isabella, who got hurt in practice today. So I was watching him field punts, and you could tell he was limping. He wasn't putting all his weight onto one of his legs, and then he pulled himself off the fielding drills, and then he started to try to explode, and it just wasn't happening. So unfortunately, Andy Isabella pulled himself out of practice. He didn't participate the rest of the day. So he had gotten hurt in, special teams drills before practice even really started. So I don't know what the future is going to hold for Andy Isabella. Obviously, kind of one of the reasons why they've made a lot of these moves at wide receiver was to have healthy bodies. So if Andy Isabella can't go, I do believe Kyle Shanahan did say it was day-to-day at this point. It'll be interesting to see if they make a roster move there or not. So something to keep in mind You did see Robbie Chosen out there today. He made a couple plays, looked decent. Didn't really see him a whole bunch in team period. He was running with the threes and all that kind of stuff. He had a nice one-on-one versus Canteen, and so we'll see if Robbie Chosen can do anything with the San Francisco 49ers with his second stint. We'll have to see. But again, a lot of roster moves going down as the 49ers get prepared for their first preseason game against the Broncos. And we'll see how everything continues to stack up. But I would say that one of the more fun situations that played out throughout today was watching Ricky Pearsall versus Upton Stout. Ricky definitely looks like he's operating at full speed, and he's ready to go. He won every one of his one-on-one reps. He had a couple matched up against Upton Stout, and that seems to be a matchup that we see a lot of Ricky versus Upton, and both are definitely making each other better. So it's been one of the more fun matchups to watch throughout, training camp, especially recently. And then today, they were all over the place. They were battling in one-on-ones that spilled over into team period. You had this sequence of two plays that were pretty similar. One, they were both throws outside the numbers against the right sideline. One of them was a comeback by Ricky Pearsall. Another was an out by Ricky Pearsall. Upton Stout in coverage in both of them. On the comeback, it was I could see. Again, I have to mention this. I have the best view of 49ers training camp that I've ever had when they practice on the close field. And because of the angle, I get basically all 22 view of camp from where I'm at in the stands up high, looking down at practice. So I get to see what the quarterbacks are seeing. I get to kind of get the whole view, which is a much better view of what I've used to have where it was from the side. This time I get to see everything from the back, and it really does make the world of a difference. So like on this particular play, I could see Ricky one-on-one versus Upton Stout on the right side, just those two basically on an island, and I could see that Brock was like, I'm going to this route, but it was about, I would say probably 10 to 12 yards before Ricky broke it back on a comeback. And I was like, oh, it's taking a little long. And then Brock threw it. And then you see Ricky snap off the route and come back towards the ball. Again, Upton Stout was in good coverage, but it was just a well-timed throw and a good catch by Ricky Pearsall to come back for the football. So it's just an example of those two guys showing that they're on the same page. And then you had another one where it was more of an out, kind of in the flat kind of area. But, it's a difficult throw for quarterbacks to be able to make opposite side hash, outside the numbers, on a line against the sideline. I thought Brock put the ball in a good spot. I thought he put it in a spot where Ricky could catch it, and I felt it hit Ricky in the hands, but Upton did enough to break up the pass, and it fell incomplete. I thought it was a catchable ball, but I do, so it was one of those ones where it was like Upton definitely made it more difficult with his coverage. He was all over Ricky, and it was a physical rep and, fighting through the catch. So Upton definitely made it difficult, but it did look like a catch that Ricky could have brought in. Again, it would have been a difficult one. Wouldn't have been easy. But Ricky got up. You could tell by the body language. He thought he should have had that one. So, but again, it's just an example of those two guys battling back and forth throughout training camp. And while Ricky was great, whether it was over the middle, doing all his stuff, you can just see Ricky is fast. Ricky is fast, man. But Upton Stout has also been great. He's been very stout in the run game, and I think that's been one of my favorite developments for Upton, is that he plays around the line of scrimmage. He is not afraid to get his nose dirty. He's not afraid to make plays at the line of scrimmage in the run game. He is always around the football. So I do like what I've seen from Upton. I think everyone does. I think it's, one of the worst kept secrets of 49ers training camp. Upton Stout is having a hell of a camp. And, everything that you could kind of actually see throughout the pre-draft process and all that good stuff. But, with some of the injuries, and again, no Nick Bosa today, you had no Sam Okiwanu today. First play of team period would have been disrupted by Bryce Huff. It was a play-action naked boot to the left, and Bryce was immediately in Brock Purdy's face. If he would have put his hands up, he would have batted the ball down. I think he could have sacked Brock, but he kind of ducked down so that Brock could complete the throw, because it is practice. You're not supposed to touch the quarterback. And if, honestly, I really don't think they're supposed to bat balls, because they want it to be a rep. That also counts for, the receiver and whoever's covering. And so Brock kind of hesitated because Bryce was there. He let it rip, and it was intended to George Kittle on what looked like a corner route. And it was a little behind because of Bryce Huff being right there. And it was a nice PBU by Fred Warner, who was very, very hyped on the play. Fred, how Fred gets, where he gets to yelling, he gets to doing, Fred was very animated on the PBU towards George Kittle on that particular play. Again, the ball was a bit behind. But outside of that, Brock Purdy and George Kittle have been balling. Their connection is just different. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's them working out all summer in Tennessee, being neighbors now, but the connection between Brock and George is going to be electric. Again, we do fantasy on here. I would definitely suggest drafting George Kittle in your fantasy leagues, because he's going to get fed a lot. Him and Brock continue to be on the same page. When Kittle is apparently the primary, the ball comes out so fast, because I think Brock knows exactly where Kittle's going to be. And as a result of that, the ball gets out so fast, and George is always in the right spot for it. Whether it's passes over the middle today, balls in the flat. I think you had a Kittle screen, a little tight end screen to Kittle. So that was good. I think one of my favorite Brock throws today was to George Kittle. It was opposite side hash, throwing an out to Kittle against the right sideline. And if you guys know, think of 49ers versus Seattle in Seattle last season, when Brock was opposite side hash and threw a touchdown to George Kittle at that front corner pylon. That is a very difficult throw to make in the NFL. It's one of the harder throws to make in the NFL, because all a DB has to do is shoot the passing lane, and it's pick six. So you have to put it in a perfect spot with a certain velocity, and Brock threw it on a rope right to only where George could get it against the sideline with a DB in coverage, and it was nice. But again, their situation is on full display. We got a super chat that says, "Cut Tig. Not only does he suck, now injury prone. I didn't see him out there today, so, but I also didn't see anything about an injury. So maybe he did get hurt. I don't know, but right now it looks like there's a lot of Jason Pinnock and a lot of Richie Grant out there at safety for the San Francisco 49ers. Nigel says, why was Nair released? Thought he was a sleeper wide receiver. I don't have a good reason for that. Maybe there's too many rookie wide receivers right now for Shanahan's liking. I'm not really sure why they released him. And it's not like, he was a fringe roster guy to begin with. At best, he was going to most likely be a practice squad guy. But he showed he could make plays. I didn't see him make, any egregious drops or anything like that. It seemed like from his involvement in team, he was doing pretty well. But then again, obviously, I don't know the context of what they're doing or the routes that they're running or things of that nature. So we know that to be a wide receiver in Shanahan's scheme, you have to be very detail-oriented. So, yeah, I don't know. I would just have to – I wish I could tell you why Nair was let go, but he was. So, again, Kittle and Pearsall having a good rapport. Kittle and Purdy. Did I say Kittle and Pearsall?
Yeah.
Purdy and Pearsall. And Purdy and Kittle have a really strong rapport. There was one play in today's camp where you had Brock Purdy throw a touchdown pass to Patrick Taylor in the corner right end zone. I didn't get a good look at how the play developed. All I know is that there wasn't a player within like 10 yards of Patrick Taylor on that play. So that was nice. Carter Bradley already looks better than Tanner Mordecai. Bradley had a touchdown pass to Jordan Watkins in red zone period. He's got some good zip on the ball. He can lace it in there really well. Carter probably had the best deep ball throw of the day to Tariq Owens. Actually would have been a sack, but he still let the thing rip. Looked like Tariq caught it in stride down the right sideline. Would have been a home run hit. You also had a Mac Jones big play to Ricky Pearsall today, probably 40 yards downfield. Mac did let the ball hang up in the air a little bit, and Pearsall had to slow down to get the ball. If he would have hit him in stride, probably would have been a touchdown. But because Pearsall had to make a little bit of an adjustment, would have been tackled inside the 10. But still, Pearsall had beat the coverage. He was, like I said, if he would have just hit him in stride, definitely would have been a touchdown. But overall, not bad. Mac's still solid. So he's a really strong QB2 for sure. Let's see. Carter Bradley also had a dime over the middle of the field today. Absolutely threaded it through some good coverage. Michael Williams continues to show up in the run game. I think Michael is going to be very stout, very hard to run against when he's out there. CJ West would have had maybe a strip sack on Mac Jones, but he pulled up. Definitely looked like he could have knocked that ball out, but you're obviously you're taught to not hit the quarterback's arm. So he let it go. Mac had a teardrop type throw to Amir Abdullah down the right sideline. That was pretty nice. Corey Kiner got run with the ones as a result of some of the injuries. And again, one of the newcomers, Bradley Ane, who was just signed today, was on fire at the end of team period. I had him as 3 would-be sacks, and then that one where Carter had the deep throw to Owens, Ane won so quickly. He was literally standing there waiting for the quarterback before he hit his hitch step. I was, I don't know. I'm not familiar with him. Today was the first day that I've seen of him, but I was pretty impressed. I was pretty impressed for sure. So some good stuff today. It's good to be back out there watching them go. Filthy says, I heard Gus Bradley's son is horrible at quarterback. I thought he was better than Tanner Mordecai. I thought Carter Bradley had a better practice than Tanner Mordecai has had all training camp. So already today, Carter Bradley had 3 legit throws. So yeah, and he's a bigger quarterback. His presence is. I was telling Steph this. I was like, his body language is better than Tanner Mordecai. And again, it's like, what does that mean? I don't know. I've watched a lot of football players. I've watched, I've watched a lot of football players, and there's just something about certain body languages that you can kind of tell. Like, I don't know if it's a confidence thing. I don't know how to explain it, but there's just a way that some guys move, and you're like, yeah, that guy moves like he's confident. That guy moves pretty well, and he proceeded to have a solid day today. So yeah, he looked better than Mordecai, I would say that. So not bad. Oh, and Drew Moss today had another strong 1v1 period. I know you guys remember I probably talked about Drew Moss locking up a couple guys in 1v1s, having a solid team period. Again today, he had a good rep. He locked up CJ West on a one-on-one, which doesn't happen all that often. CJ West tossed Brendel today. And then Drew Moss comes back, locks up CJ West. He locked up Valdez, and he locked up Alfred Collins. I would say right now, we'll see with Alfred Collins, but he isn't flashing like I thought he would. He's definitely not flashing like I was expecting him to, so we'll see what he does when the lights turn on. He's going to be a guy that I'm going to want to get an eye on. But I think Alfred Collins, we need to light a fire a little bit. Let's see something from Collins. I'm not seeing him flash too much. He doesn't typically win one-on-one reps, so we'll see how that goes. But so far, CJ West has been one of the most dominant interior defenders in one-on-ones. But that's why I think it stands out that Drew Moss is doing well. Drew Moss is still running with the thirds. Connor Colby's running with the twos. And we saw Ben Barch take over left guard today. Spencer Burford filling in for Trent Williams. So we'll see. We'll see how the offensive line stuff continues to play out. But yeah, I would say Alfred Collins is one of the guys that I want to see more of. Oh, a guy that I got to shout out. Chase Lucas had some good reps today. I think Chase Lucas is quietly having a good camp. I don't know if Chase Lucas is going to make the roster or not. That's just one that I'm not sure of, but he had a really good one-on-one rep today where he ran the route for the wide receiver. He would have had a pick if Mac Jones threw it. They waited, and then the receiver did something else. Mac threw it, the receiver caught it. But that's a win for Chase Lucas. He absolutely, if you're having to create in one-on-ones, then you lost. So Chase Lucas won that rep, and then Chase Lucas and Mac Jones were like ribbing each other, like yelling at each other or whatever. I thought it was pretty funny to watch. Mac Jones looks like he's a good teammate, man. Seems to get along with a lot of the guys, and all that good stuff. Robbie Chosen he had a good win in one-on-ones. He didn't do a ton today. He was running with the threes for the most part in the team period. Isaiah Prince was out there today. He got, he didn't look great either, but, it's his first day out there, so we'll see. We'll see how that goes. Overall, I thought it wasn't bad. Do I see the 49ers bringing another offensive tackle besides Prince? I mean, I would say yes, but who? Offensive line is already a very scarce position in regards to talent, and finding someone who's not on a team right now that could come in and be solid, that's hard. That's hard to do, man. It's hard to do. Poody's out there. Shout out Wolf. He says, hello, Brad. Saw you today. Ran into a couple people today. That was cool. Braden Willis sighting. I didn't see a ton from Braden Willis, but, I think Braden has a chance, to make the roster. We'll see. We'll see. Like I said, him and Mac Jones seem to have a solid connection. And without Kyle Juszczyk today, I think they used Braden in kind of that Kyle Juszczyk role. So we'll see with Braden. We'll see. Ross the Boss. I think Ross had a play. I think he made a play today. I can't remember. I think he did, but pretty sure he did. But nothing that's standing out that's like, oh, crazy. I've definitely seen Ross Dwelly have better 49ers camps. Especially the camp that I was hyping him up. I think that was like 2021. I think he had a phenomenal camp. This one, he's okay. We'll see. I just talked about him. I just talked about Drew Moss. I think Drew Moss he's a guy that I want to see stick around for sure. Drew Moss to me seems like a guy who could be on that 49ers development plan, who we could see take some snaps in like year 3. So I think Drew Moss is a guy you definitely keep around. Practice squad probably. Let him develop, and he could be one of those guys that, one of those guards that just comes out of nowhere that the 49ers somehow, mold into a future starter. He definitely seems like he could have that potential. So I would definitely keep Drew Moss around. I like what I've seen from him. I think he's played well, all things considered. I wasn't honestly expecting a ton from him. I got into some of his tape. I didn't love his tape at Colorado, so I was like, man, we'll see. But he's been solid. I'll give him that. He's been solid. Um, Isaac Alasorn had a lot of trouble today because that's who Bradley Anae was going against. When he had like those 3 sacks to end practice, they were all against Alsorn, so it wasn't great. Is T.O. Sun making the team? I would say no. He had a good day today, though. I'm not going to lie. He had a couple catches, and again he had this deep catch down the right sideline. I think Tariq Owens. I don't think you give up on him. I think you hold him on the practice squad for one more season, and I think heading into year 3, Alarcon. Thanks. I don't know how to pronounce his name. I pronounce it like 14 different ways just to make sure one of them is hopefully right. But yeah, Tariq will probably be a practice squad guy, and heading into year 3, I think he could definitely take a jump. But I just don't think he gets a ton of opportunities, to be honest with you. So it's hard to stand out when you don't get a ton. But he seems to make the plays when he does. So, I like Tariq Owens. I think he's solid. I think he has potential. I just don't know what the 49ers current roster. They could probably only carry 6 to 7 wide receivers, and so it's going to be a challenge for Tariq to crack that active. But again, keep him on the practice squad for sure. Allen, the edge rusher, is fast. I'll give him that. He's very fast. Haven't seen him much in one-on-ones. Do I think Darrell Luter will be cut if he doesn't show up this camp? I think there's a chance. Unfortunately, Darrell Luter, there was a camp day where he made a couple plays, but then he got beat deep by Jordan Watkins for a touchdown. So he really has been invisible for a lot of training camp, and I don't know if that bodes well for him. We'll see. Former 5th-round draft pick. We'll see. I think he's going to have a really strong preseason for the 49ers to keep him around. So we'll see from that. From what I've seen so far, is this a playoff team, or is depth going to give us the result like last year? If everyone can stay healthy, this is a playoff team, no doubt. But that's the problem, is that when you start losing guys, and again, like today, no Bosa, no CMC, no Garendo, no Kyle Juszczyk, obviously no Ayuk, no Jennings, no Tig. You start to look real thin. So as long as these guys can stay healthy and stay available, yeah, they're a playoff team. This offense should be much better off than they were last year. But again, you got to stay healthy, and that's the key. That is really the key for the 49ers' success this season is health, because they don't have a ton of depth at some positions. And, we're already seeing that play out throughout training camp. They're getting tested. So it's not necessarily a bad thing to get tested in camp, because it allows you to get a lot of reps for some younger guys. But granted, you got to be healthy. And that's what you want to see. So I think they have the talent. I think they have the continuity. I think the energy's there. Energy's night and day different than it was last year. So we'll see how it goes for sure. Who do I see returning kicks, punts this year? Junior Bergen. Honestly, the only thing that would really point to Junior Bergen making the roster for me right now is the fact that he was the 7th round draft pick. I really haven't seen a ton from him. He's been used more and more as training camp has gone on. But I also wouldn't be surprised if Junior Bergen didn't make the roster. He just doesn't strike me, especially with Jacob Cowing, assuming Jacob Cowing's going to be healthy. He seems like a duplicate version of Jacob Cowing. And it's like, are the 49ers going to keep 2 of those guys on the roster? I think Russell Gage has earned a spot. I think Russell Gage has had a great camp for the 49ers. You obviously got DeMarcus Robinson, Juwan Jennings, Ricky Pearsall, Brandon Ayuk. There's not a lot of spots. So I don't know if Bergen's going to make it. Bergen strikes me as a guy who's going to be a practice squad guy. So we'll see how that goes. But, nothing has really stood out to me. He could have had a touchdown today. Granted, the throw wasn't great. So we'll see how it goes moving forward. But, yeah, a lot of good stuff to take away from 49ers training camp. Appreciate everyone of you guys tapping in. Appreciate all the questions. A lot of good questions today. And we'll be back tomorrow. 49ers camp. Appreciate you guys. I'm out for now. Peace.
Smash that like button if you haven't already. Love to see you.